known ancient workings, as it were. Again, the time depth of those workings isn't always known. But in many of the cases, there's like Roman pottery has been found, or the little oil lamps that they used to do the mining. They'll find the Roman oil lamps there. So there's clear Roman exploitation of some of these, but the full range of it isn't always known. So that's another side of it that I would like to explore further. But we need to get on the field on that one.
David, can you elaborate a little bit on how distinctive these northern Maghrebian and Mediterranean ore sources are from the West African and Sub-Saharan ore sources?
Yeah, some of the West African stuff is very different geologically. Unfortunately, the problem with that, again, is that there's been very little work done on any of the West African sources. I've got some samples from Niger that I analyzed, and they're extremely radiogenic, which means that they were deposited with large amounts of uranium. And if you know that central Niger, that these huge uranium deposits, well, the copper ores from that area have picked up, and uranium is one of the daughter products for the lead. So they're very distinctive, but there are also other ore deposits as well that just haven't been characterized.
But on current evidence, I mean, there's no kind of overlapping distribution down there, similar to some of those Mediterranean, sources. We are looking at potentially the smoking gun for pre-Atlantic trans-Saharan trade.
Right. Well, the process of the ore and the geology is very different from the region. The African plate crashed into the European plate, millions of years ago, and when it pulled away, creating the Mediterranean basin, it actually ripped off a chunk of the European plate, and that represents the whole North African strip from Morocco, Algeria, all the way to Tunisia. So the geology in those areas is actually similar, but that's just that strip. Once you move into the Sahara, it's a very different geology.
Yeah, a question for Professor Plentrus that connects your talk back to Professor Mattingly's. I'm just a speculative question. I mean, to what extent, based on kind of what you've presented and what Professor Mattingly presented, do we ultimately find that this kind of pastoral versus sedentary divide is still a useful kind of classificatory scheme to talk through? Since it seems like most of the cases that we end up talking about are both kind of point to the fact that pastoral life always depended on, directly or indirectly, always involved directly or indirectly, various forms of agriculture, various forms of market behavior, various forms of kind of close relations, both within the oasis villages, within the mountain areas, etc. And that really what you see, what both the papers point to is a kind of these processes of